Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Van Helsing. So in this episode, we found the group, what little remains of the group, heading to Susan's house, where they ultimately find out, like, oh, her mom's dead. But her mom didn't just recently die and get buried out in the backyard. She's apparently been dead since before the Rising started, because apparently Susan hasn't been back home in a very long time. And at first, Susan's not really giving answers to, like, why that is. It's like, how did you not know that your mom was dead? I mean, it's like, you really didn't know? I mean, you know, obviously it's kind of like, okay, there's some family issues there, especially because, you know, the subject of her dad comes up and she's like, yeah, I don't care what happened to him. Whatever happened to him deserves. It's kind of like, okay. Because it seemed like, because last episode, like, she was talking more positively about her dad. She's like, oh, if there's anybody that was going to survive, it was going to be him versus, like, taking vampires out like this and that. So it didn't seem like there was any bad blood necessarily. It seemed like it was all okay, but it's apparently not. She's all about staying there, but everyone else isn't, because it's like, you know, you have Muhammad being like, I gotta find my sister, and you have Vanessa being like, I need to find my daughter, so it's kind of like, we can't stay here. Time ends up going by, and you end up finding out that her dad ended up getting turned. He ended up eating the horse that was in front of the, because Muhammad, I don't think he was jokingly saying, I think he actually admitted, he's like, oh, we can kill it. He's like, you know, for food. So lo and behold, who pops up? Her dad. And she stops, and Susan stops Vanessa from killing him. And so it's kind of like, yo, what do we do? Because, you know, Sam kind of throws out a possibility. It's like, well, Vanessa can cure him, but she's like, I can't. I mean, maybe if I bite him, maybe, but more often than not, when pharaohs bite me, they die. So it's kind of like, it's kind of a toss-up, which got my brain thinking. So it's like, so is will something different happen if she did bite them? What would be the difference? What would be the difference between, maybe like if she bites them, she can kind of control how much they intake. Maybe the problem is pharaohs, like if you give them like a small enough amount of blood, maybe that way. I don't know. Maybe her bite is well, you know, it's a different delivery system for the cure in their blood system, and maybe like them drinking her blood kind of floods their system with her blood. So maybe, I don't know, like what would be the difference between biting them? I mean, I really don't know, but I mean, that's the only thing I could think of, is just, I guess, like, because it's not like directly flowing through your veins like that, maybe it's like you get a smaller dose of the cure than if you were to drink her blood. Maybe, I don't know. But Susan was kind of like, don't even waste your time. It's like, I don't care what happens to him or whatever. Like, he deserves it. Basically pointing, never going into exact details, but apparently he did something to her, and she never told her mom about it. That basically he's the reason why she didn't know her mom died, because it was like he had cut off all communications with her, kept her in the dark about things, which super pissed Susan off. But then she walks away, and Vanessa's kind of like, I don't know if there's a part of you still human or not. She's getting ready to swing that sword, and bam! Susan popped back up and shot him. I was like, oh. I mean, I was kind of halfway expecting you to kill him, but it's like the moment you walked away, I was like, okay, I guess Vanessa's about to chop his head off with that super cool sword she got from the last episode. I'm just so glad she got a sword, because it's like, I don't know if I've ever brought this up before. You may not know this about me. I love swords. Swords are my favorite weapons, especially like katana type of swords. Like, because it brings me to samurais, and I love samurais. Katanas are kind of like the greatest designed blades in history, aren't they? I mean, it's just the way they're designed, the way they're bladed and everything. It's kind of like, I won't go as far as saying the perfect sword, but it's a really good sword. Nevertheless, it doesn't, you know, I'm going off on my own little tangent. But I was halfway expecting her to deal the blow, but it's like, nope, Susan dealt it. Now, obviously, crap fell apart the moment, like, Susan kind of went off her own, and Sam, who surprisingly enough shaved up and got cleaned up, and it's just like, ooh, it feels good, and Vanessa touched his face and everything. I was like, wow. And then there was that moment he was just kind of, because at first he pulled out the blade, I was like, okay, wait, what? I was like, and he's hiding the fact is that he got that, like, a razor blade, and I was like, okay, he's not telling anyone, you know, it's like, I don't know what you exactly call those. It's not, is it a switchblade? That's what they are, right? Yeah, switchblade. So I was kind of like, okay, he's not telling anyone about that. Okay, that's okay. Because I'll tell you right ahead. Like I threw it out there last episode. I was like, oh, it still could be anyone. It's like more likely Sam now that the numbers have whittled down. It was actually said last episode. Like I remember reading a synopsis like after I recorded everything and everything. It was kind of like, oh yeah, Sam's the killer. Like, I mean, not saying directly Sam's the killer, just being like, oh, the killer was revealed. I was like, no, they weren't. I mean, I guess the moment Sam killed that dude and Muhammad told him not to, and he was just kind of like that, being all creepy and everything. But it's like other than like. I mean, maybe I missed something and it just like to me it wasn't like oh the killer was like out like lead revealed. But then again, I guess kind of like I guess with what happened to Doc, it was kind of like oh, there's no way it was her. I mean, I don't know. It also begs the question of like what's happened between Flesh and Sam. Is that why they actually got along? Because we found out last episode that Flesh ends up he liked like he fantasized about killing his wife and child before he became a vampire. So it's like maybe on some level. But so I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, okay, I'm kind of at this point I'm thinking like it is Sam. And then it's like, okay, and now you're strangling Vanessa. I was like, you're strangling Susan. I was like, okay, no, come on. Somebody show. And nope. I was like, that sucks, dude. That sucks so much. Susan didn't deserve to go out like that. I mean, granted, no one he killed deserved to go out like that. But it's like, dude, Susan went through so much. Vanessa saved her good friend, turned her back to human. And it's, part of my brain was kind of like, she's possibly the love interest. So it's kind of like, obviously going to keep her around a while. I mean, it's like, you know, she's kind of like, legitimate like the sidekick to the superhero, so it's kind of like obviously gonna keep her nope, she's dead. I was like, that sucks. And he pulled out those huge ass. I was like, oh please don't. Like you hear the like they pull the camera away and then they kind of go, you hear the kind of sound of the scissors closing. I was like, oh, that just sucks, poor Susan. I was just like, and then there was the whole point of him coming back and being like, oh, he couldn't find her. I was like, are they really? I was like, are they gonna stumble across her body? Like, oh man, someone must have come by and killed her. But it's like, but even then, that wouldn't. It made me make you wonder, like, what was Sam thinking? I mean, I'll get to that in a second. But it's like they would have found the body eventually because if they went looking, I mean, I guess maybe he was thinking like they wouldn't have found a body. I don't know. Because I'm saying like her finger's missing. They would have put two and two together. So. But it was like interesting because Muhammad's the one that kind of figured it out first. He's like, okay, something's weird here. Decided to check out Sam's bag, found all those fingers, and before Muhammad could even outright tell Vanessa, he confessed, he's like, I killed Susan. And it's like, wait, what? And he never really gives an explanation, a full explanation why. He says that basically he's been like this. Because to him, like when he was talking about it earlier, he was like, the reason why he shaved his head bald, his face bald, face and hair, was because he wanted to make a change. And I'm guessing it's because like, he is trying to crave those impulses of his. And maybe that's why he's a little kind of, if you look back in the past or some of the episodes, he's the most aggro. Like that time he was beating down that vampire over and over again. Even last episode, you can kind of see him kind of going a little nuts, hitting one of the guys over and over again. Even going as far as killing that dude last episode, which I guess is the reason why they were kind of like, oh yeah, the killer was revealed. But I didn't really take that as much. No, I don't know. I guess I didn't really think much of it. It just kind of like, I felt like Sam was doing it as retribution for the fact that it's like, yo, this dude locked me up. Screw him. He's going to die. That's how I take it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that just outright sucks. And then Vanessa's like, okay, we're going to have to put him down. Muhammad's like, I got to go. She's like, you don't want to see this. He's like, I can translate for you. It's like, there ain't much talking going to be done. I'm going to outright kill him. But Sam was saying, like, the reason why he did it, I mean, first of all, he's like, I've always been like this. So that's what I was talking about. Like, maybe that's why him and Flesh kind of connected on that level. Maybe he was always a little disturbed in that sense of just being a killer. Like he might be, kind of had his Dexter thing going on, not necessarily killing bad people, but maybe back when he was a kid, he killed. And like, I didn't know what his response was going to be. I was like, oh, are you secretly a vampire and you somehow hid it this entire time? I was like, no. It's like, then what's your whole deal? I mean, because the sad thing is we never actually got the full conversation because we had the conversations between him and Muhammad, and it's like Muhammad's responding, but it's like, even Vanessa's like, what's he saying? He's like, it's not important. Because he explained the reason why he killed someone like Susan in particular was because Susan was weak. Because Susan was complaining to him like the fact that she didn't know she can handle all of this. And I guess he's going as far as saying he's doing it for all their sake. He's saying he even did it for Vanessa's sake. And like, I guess because she was weak, she would have held them back. So the reason why he chose the specific people he chose was because they were weak. And, they were people that would have slowed the group down or got someone else killed, I guess, weren't strong enough to keep going. Because Susan herself, when she was questioning it all, she's like, she didn't know if she could keep going forward after everything that's happened. And she's just kind of like, it's not just about her dad, it's just about the whole situation as a whole. And it's just, and he was hugging her and everything. I was like, okay, so it's good. But then he proceeded to strangle her. I was still halfway expecting him to pull out the blade that he used to shave himself. I was just like, while he was hugging her, to just like stab her or something or cut her. I know it's like, how you want to stab her with that? Maybe he had a different knife on him or something. But I was like, dude, I would. And at the same time, I was also afraid he was going to snap her neck. I can't handle that in TV shows. Like, I don't know why. It's just, I guess, that disturbs me the most, breaking someone's neck, because it's like that. It's so, like, the thing is, because they make it seem so easy just to snap someone's neck, and it just makes me feel super uncomfortable, so. But strangling, or either way, it still sucks so much, major ass. And then he's basically telling Muhammad, it's like, tell her the truth or I will. And it's like, whoa, what? Like, Vanessa doesn't push it, but what was it? We still don't know what secrets Muhammad might be keeping. Is it something between them, as in like a relationship thing? Like, it's kind of like they were in love with each other, were they lovers type of situation, or what? I don't know how to interpret that, or is that something we'll pick up next episode? I mean, because Vanessa and basically it's like, we're not killers, we're not going to kill you, slices his leg and leave him for dead for like the vampires to get him. But the moment a vamp comes, he kills it, but not before it bites him. But like, because I threw this out there before, it's like, because Flesh had pointed it out to Sam. He was like, oh yeah, if you become a vampire, it heals any old wounds you had. Like for Flesh, it was like a shoulder he had that when he was transformed, it kind of ended up recovering. And for Sam, that meant he got his hearing back. I mean, obviously his legs healed, but he can also hear again. So that puts him in a big advantage against Vanessa and Muhammad. Just that, because another thing too is like the fact is Muhammad was like, oh, we got to stick together and everything. I was like, okay, I'm suspicious of that. Like, I was like, I understand his reasoning of it, because it's also because like Vanessa's tough and she's what she is, so it's kind of like you definitely don't want to go off on your own. You want to have her on your side, but like that is a good enough reason. But at the same time, I'm like, part of me was wondering, like, was Muhammad really the killer the entire time, and it was actually Sam who did that to cover for him? Maybe, like, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, we'll have to really find out. Maybe we'll find out more in the next episode. Maybe he'll. Like, I'm curious as to, like I said, besides the whole them being weak thing, like, I don't know, like, especially like that part of the conversation we never got from Muhammad is like, can Muhammad necessarily be trusted? I don't know, like, it just, all around, it just sucks. Because now the group is down to 2. It's like, dude, I was not expecting the group to get whittled down this much. Holy crap, I was not expecting that. And I'm guessing, like, I don't know, if the show gets brought back for a second season, it seems like it's going to be like a mainly new almost an entirely new cast of characters. Obviously, wasn't the guy that she met last episode, I think his name was Theo, the dude that gave her the sword. So probably him. Maybe you'll get Flesh to return. Axel, because I still don't think Axel is dead. Doc, she's just off on her own, probably. I don't know what she's going to do. Maybe she's going to join up with some vamps, because it's like she can't be turned again, and she can't go back because Vanessa doesn't want her back after what she did to Axel. So it's like, where the hell did she go? We went through all that trouble. You're like, oh, I was never meant to be human again. And it's like, oh, you can't be a vampire either. So just a super depressing episode. Like I said, it's just kind of like, I legitimately was not expecting this group to get whittled down to the little bit that it is. I'm almost getting a feeling like by the end of this season, it's just going to be Vanessa. Like, something's going to happen to Muhammad, maybe. Whether it's like some dark secret about him comes out and Vanessa has to kill him or something. I don't know. I mean, because like, we don't really know much about Muhammad's personal life other than the fact is who's to say Muhammad doesn't play a role into why his sister's in it. Like, maybe there's like a dark history between them, like a family thing. It's like, oh, he's not actually a good brother, and maybe Shima will end up revealing that to Vanessa. I don't know, because like we've all kind of looked at Muhammad in a very positive light, but just that whole conversation is like tell her the truth. So I'm like, maybe there's validity to that. Maybe it was actually Muhammad, and that Sam was just covering for him. Which I don't know. Or is there something? Got to be something else, because Muhammad told him, I was like, "Oh, you broke my heart, Sam." After beating the crap out of him and everything. Like I said, maybe that's because like Sam was his only friend. I mean, because that's the thing too. We don't know Sam and Muhammad's connection on like how they met, how they ended up together, and stuff like that. So that's why I'm like, there's so much left unanswered. Now I'm hoping we get an answer to it next episode. Even if the characters don't find out, I hope as the audience we get to find out whether it's like a flashback or something, kind of like the whole second episode of this season, where it's like you got a flashback of how this all kind of started. So, and then another side of this episode is, well, two sides. There was Julius, who tracked down Magdalene. Apparently, the babies were for him. I was like, she was basically getting food for Julius because he apparently likes babies because they have the freshest blood or whatever. And also, he had a pharaoh with him, which I'm pretty sure maybe not. It seemed like it might have been the same pharaoh that attacked Sam near the end of the episode. But nevertheless, there was like, they were going to basically having the pharaoh kind of go wild and on a chain near Magdalene. So I'm like, do pharaohs, I mean, granted, they're kind of it's in the name, they are feral, so I guess they eat anything, including other vampires. I mean, has that really come up before? It's like, I know they're kind of wild, but I didn't even know that they fed on the other kind. I mean, I guess when you look at it, like, pharaohs are very different from the other vampires, where you have, like, people like Julius, Rebecca, and Dimitri. Then you have people like Magdalene, who Flesh and Susan were like, and then you have, like, your straight out pharaohs. So there was that. So Julius is closing in on him. Plus, like I said, got the whole Sam situation, now souped up as a vampire. But then you also have like Dimitri's side of things, where like Rebecca's kind of like bringing out the fact it's like, oh, their plan is to use Vanessa as a means of being able to walk in the daylight. Because they point out the fact is that Vanessa, even though she is human, she's kind of more like them than she is human. Because the fact is that she kind of loses her temper the way she does, kind of becomes very savage and animal-like. Plus, just like I said, the whole like biting people thing, it's just kind of like, that was kind of the vampire inside her. Like I said, we still don't know how that works. Whether it's just a genetics thing, is it a family thing? But my brain like brought up I was thinking like, but how are they going to use her blood to walk in the sunlight? Doesn't her blood I mean, we know that it kills pharaohs and it turns regular like middle class vampires, middle stage vampires into back to human and whatnot. But what will it do to a royal? Like, I mean, it does have the effect of turning them back to human. The way they had that conversation, like, oh, she can be our destruction, our undoing, basically. So it seemed like it's applying that, like, she could turn her back to normal. So I'm like, how do you plan on doing? I guess they plan to study her, like, take her blood and take a little bit of their own blood and kind of do some sciencey stuff to be like, okay, if we use this concoction or this compound or this and this, it's like, okay, we make it so that her blood doesn't revert us to human. It actually keeps us vampires. Because apparently this is something Rebecca has promised Dimitri well before they actually knew that Vanessa was even an option. But it seems like Dimitri's impatience is growing short, and Rebecca's like, no, don't worry about it. Just give me an army. I will wipe out the resistance, and I will bring that woman back to you as your reward. But then like Dimitri's like, I'm supposed to trust you with an army? He's like, screw that. It's like, I already have to deal with Julius Defiant self, so it's like, why would I trust you with an army for you to come back and try to overtake me, let alone join up with Julius to take me down? It's like, no, for the time being you will stay here. But she's like, what about the woman? She's a threat. He's kind of like, I've already got the handle. Once again, how do you interpret that? What does that mean? Does he have other people? Does he have another death squad after him? Or is there something going on with Muhammad that we don't know about? That maybe that's what Sam was talking about, the fact that Muhammad made a deal with them. I don't know. I mean, because there was the whole situation, because like Muhammad brought up the fact is that they have tattoos. Those tattoos represent who they belong to. Maybe that's who Muhammad belongs to. Maybe he belongs to Dimitri, just like Rebecca owns his sister. So maybe there's something like that. So maybe this entire time he's been a double agent, and maybe that's why Sam was killing off weak people to protect him and Vanessa, so that Muhammad could deliver her to him maybe not. Maybe we're talking about Axel. Once again, I feel like something's going to happen to Muhammad, whether he gets killed because he was like, oh, fighting vamps or something like that, or whether it's because like Vanessa ends up finding out the truth about him or something. It's just, I don't know. We would just have to wait and see. The question I'm also curious about is how do the royals, like people like Julius, Dimitri, and Rebecca, become the way they are? Were they naturally born vampires or not? Like, is all of this like connected to what Rebecca is doing? Like, does Dimitri really have? I don't think Dimitri really necessarily has an idea of what. It's kind of come up in the past, like he doesn't know exactly what Rebecca's doing. So I was wondering, is that supposed to be some mean? Because I take it as like a means of like, oh, continuing the vampire race. But part of me is thinking like maybe they're trying to give birth to other royals like them, because currently the only ones like them are those three. I'm not sure about the woman that Julius kind of takes orders from, the one that kind of gives him the nod as to whether or not he should make certain moves or not, the one who kind of counsels him. So I don't know if she's one too, but it seems like there are very few of them. Then you have like the middle class vampires and then the ferals. So it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe there's something to that. Like maybe that's what the babies are supposed to kind of represent, a way of giving birth to more royal status vampires. So I don't know, kind of raise their numbers, or maybe it's just supposed to be vampires in general. So I mean, I don't know. Because another thing we kind of final note in the episode was the fact is that they didn't directly talk to him, but there was a guy, his name is either Goro or Gordo, but basically he brought up the fact is that like, oh, the resistance is in Denver, which is kind of what Vanessa's kind of like, oh, we should go there. But, you know, at the same time, Muhammad's like, oh, we should go try and find my sister, the camp she's being held at. It's nearby, which is like, I don't know. And, but apparently that's where the resistance is set up at. And because that has come up before in the show, that the fact is that the sky is thinning out, what's blocking out the sun is slowly thinning out. Obviously, the vampires are trying to amp it up more and more, but even that's not a permanent solution because it's slowly wearing thin. Because even like Denver, like the area is a little, I guess, higher, like on the on ground level status, it's a little higher up, so I guess it has a little more access to direct sunlight, making it a little more of a safer place, a place where the vampires can't really roam free. You know, the thing is, it never really came up that much, like seeing them under direct sunlight. Obviously you've seen UV, but in this episode you got to see Dimitri kind of step into the light. You even saw Rebecca you even saw him kind of torturing her a little bit by pushing her, or pulling her into the sun so it burns her face a little bit. So I'm guessing hopefully we get to see him again. I mean, it's like, hear from Goro again. I'm sure they're not going to take the radio with them, because it's kind of sad. I mean, Vanessa kind of says this thing that makes it super depressing, being like, yeah, she loved it here, so she gets to rest here eternally. I mean, not necessarily rest, because Sam ends up digging her body up at the end of the episode and feeding on her, so whether he consumed every bit of her, I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess because there's enough blood left in her veins because she hasn't been dead that long. So once again, like seriously, that sucks. That sucks. That sucks. That sucks. I really wish Susan would have been able to stay around, especially because, like I said, I mean, granted, Theo kind of came into the picture, but like I said, that was like Vanessa's best friend. It's like one of her last connections to her life before the Rising. So it's kind of like, that's going out too. It's just like a person she held very dear. Like the only person in this world she has left now is, well, now Muhammad and hopefully Dylan. But still, it does make you wonder. Like the fact is, we know that whole side story about, well, background to Susan about having a child that she gave up for adoption a long time ago, because that's why she kind of got all teary-eyed when that mother gave birth to her child last episode. Maybe there's something to that will kind of pop up. Maybe they'll end up meeting Susan's daughter without realizing who she is. Maybe Vanessa will look at her and be like, oh, you kind of remind me of Susan or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Just sort of firing off random thoughts on it. So very interested to see how everything goes down next episode. I saw a little bit of it. It is them. Vanessa's kind of like, oh, we really don't have much of a choice. We can't just run from Sam. We have to kind of stay and fight. So like I said, hopefully we can find out a little bit more about the situation, find out what else, I'm curious to see what else goes down next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. good day and goodbye.